Hola! Today we're actually going to take your last batch of notes about verbs in el pretérito for this year. And we're going to be dealing with verbos irregulares en el pretérito. As we move through this, keep in mind that there's some information that you just have in your packet, so you will not need to watch this on the video. So I'll tell you where to be looking at that point in time. As I go through things out loud, and then there will also, of course, a couple times when you'll have to pause the video and complete some activities. But let's get started here. First off, as you see at the top of the page, una cosa importante, an important thing, no usamos acentos con los verbos irregulares en el pretérito. That's right, irregular verbs in the preterite do not have accents. We do not put any accents on irregular verbs in the preterite. So it's important to remember that because we're so accustomed to putting accents on the last letter of some verb forms in the preterite tense that it's a little new to hear that we don't use accents with something. So be aware, none of these verbs will have accents written on them, okay? The first verb we're going to do is a quick verb of ser and ir, which we did back in October with the culture unit when we discussed the conquest of the Caribbean region of the Americas a little bit. So ser and ir mean different things, of course, but they do have the same conjugations in the preterite. They're both quite irregular. So we have fui, fuiste, fue, fuimos, fuistes, and fueron. So make sure you write those down correctly and remember no accents. Now, if you look at the bottom half of page 1, you'll notice that I have 2 boxes there. This is a batch of irregular verbs that actually has a lot in common, which means that they each have an irregular stem. So you'll notice on the left-hand side, there's a column that says irregular verbs and stems. And you'll note that there's a list of verbs, and then a dash, and then an irregular stem, so an irregular first part of the verb. So for example, the irregular stem for us here is is, H-I-C. You'll note there's a little asterisk there because the LA usted form is completely wonky. It's iso, H-I-Z-O. The irregular stem for estar is estuv. The irregular stem for tener is tuv. For poder, it's pud. For poner, it's pus. For querer, it's quis. For saber, it's soup. And be aware that it's important to note, and I'm going to ask that you write this down, that saber in the preterite and in the preterite only means to find out. Otherwise, as we're aware, it means to know facts or information. So once again, write down in the preterite, saber means to find out. Venir is vin. All of these verbs have the same batch of endings. So if you look at the little chart under share these endings where it says iste, o, imos, istes, ieron, once again with no accents, you'll see that all of the irregular verbs with their irregular stems on the left-hand side use these endings. So you actually don't have to memorize all of these verbs individually. It's more along the lines of, do I know the irregular stems on the left-hand side, and do I know which endings go with them? And so a way you can see this works is, for example, the yo form of hacer in the preterite would be ise. The tu form of estar would be estuviste. The LA usted form of tener would be tu vo. The nosotros form of poder would be pudimos. The vosotros form of poner would be pusistes. And the ellos ustedes form of querer would be quisieron. So once again, if you memorize the irregular stems, in which irregular verbs use them, and that one batch of endings on the right-hand side of page 1, the process of learning irregular verbs does become somewhat simpler. It takes a little practice, but it does ultimately simplify everything. So now go on to página 2. Oops, sorry. Let's go to the back. Let's go back one there. I skipped ahead too far. Okay. And as you see there, on the first page, they have irregular stems that they share the same endings. And at the top of página 2, please write these 2 examples. You have tener, which is to have. So we have yo tuve, tu tuviste, LA usted tuvo, nosotros tuvimos, vosotros tuvistes, and ellos ustedes tuvieron. And hacer, which I picked purposely because of the irregular LA usted form, the even more so irregular LA usted form, to make or to do. We have yo hice, tu hiciste, LA usted hizo, nosotros hicimos, vosotros hicisteis, and ellos ustedes hicieron. Now, pausa el video, pause the video, and pick 3 additional irregular verbs from the bottom of the first page. So you cannot do tener again, and you cannot do hacer again. Okay, bottom of the first page. Have me check your work for accuracy when you're done, so we can catch any possible mistakes or errors where you're stuck early on. And then once I've checked your work over, please move on to complete the video and get your last couple bits of information. Okay, so we've got 2 more verbs, and I call these the J verbs. You'll see that there are a couple of additional verbs as we go on in Spanish, or as you go on in Spanish, that you'll have to learn that are like this. Most notably conducir, which is one of the verbs that means to drive, and traducir, which is to translate. But here we have decir, to say or to tell, and traer, to bring. And sorry if you can hear my dog being crazy in the background there. We have yo dije, tu dijiste. Please be very careful making sure that you have all your J's and your I's down correctly, because there are a lot of them, and it can be a little confusing to look at them, even for me at times, and I've been at this for quite a while. Usted dijo, nosotros dijimos, vosotros dijisteis, and ellos ustedes dijeron. And we also have traer, to bring, yo traje, tú trajiste, él usted trajo, nosotros trajimos, vosotros trajisteis, and ellos ustedes trajeron. Make sure, once again, that you get everything done correctly. This is actually the end of this video. It is one of the shorter ones we've done, I think, hopefully, yay. And you only have 2 more grammar videos left this year. Woohoo! So please complete the activity at the bottom of Página 3, and then have Señora check your work. Bring your paper up, have me check your work, and then you can move on to the homework and practice activities. Gracias!